Hello dear friends, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to make all the conclusions about the Jetstream and Jetstream's team implementation and Spotty's Laravel permissions also with team implementation. So two of those very good packages have a team implementation, and if you have a Laravel project with a Jetstream and you want to install a Spotty Laravel permissions to it, all with teams, here are the guide for you guys how to do it, because the documentation here is like not really helping at all that much if you don't go into details and don't spend a couple of your amazing lifetimes hours, maybe even some days, and for some case even weeks for someone maybe, for trying to figure it out how. But in this video I'm gonna show you how it's done properly. I'm not gonna show you assigned roles and all that stuff. I'm gonna just run through the documentation and show you what I did and what it's really gonna happen, like what it does in the end. So after we install the Spotty, we can go to it's just the basic usage of introduction. We can go to the installation in Laravel. We do this one. We publish all of those documents that we need, service provider and migrations. And we clear our cache just in case. And before running PHP Artisan Migrate, we don't do that yet. We need to go to the app, permissions. Okay, I think that's config. All right, we go there. And we go to the team functionality, which should be true right here. And then we just add the has roles trait to the model, and we are ready to set further our team functionality. So here we go to the team's permissions. So after doing all of that, we can run PHP Artisan Migrate. Here the documentation one more time, make sure that we did it true. And here comes the interesting part of it. Before running PHP Artisan Migrate, there is a little hint here which says, also if you want to use a custom foreign key for teams, you set it in the permission config file. So this one, as long as I understand, is assumed that the column that's defined in the user table that shows to which team that user belongs. So in a Jetstream's case, it's not a team ID. Default of this one, when you install the package, is a team ID. But for Jetstream, the foreign key that shows which team that user belongs is a current team ID. So we also should do that. I think in my case, I already did it. Okay, here we go. In our case, because we have a Jetstream, and Jetstream has a user table, and there the column for it is a current team ID. That's why we change it. So this is another tricky part of a documentation. You would assume that two greatest packages, Jetstream and Laravel permissions, both have a team's functionality working. When they are installed, they are just automatically work, right? But unfortunately, they don't. And there are really tricky, cumbersome parts here that we need to figure it out to make them together work, even though the documentation really sets us aside from that. So one of them is that you can change it to the current team ID, and another, it says working with team's permission after implementing a solution for selecting a team on the authentication process. For example, setting the team ID of the currently selected team on the session. So here the Spotty gives an example that we set the team ID in a session when it's authenticated or when it changes it. But since our teams are controlled by Jetstream, and Jetstream doesn't use session, so we don't really have a clear example here. But let's finish this reading. Currently selected team on the session team ID, so it's basically getting the team ID from session. we can set global team ID. So pay attention to this global team ID thing. From anywhere, but works better if you create a middleware. So basically it says you need to set a team ID on your request. Every time your request runs, within that request, if you assign any roles or permissions, make sure it first goes to this middleware. So it's basically what it's saying. Make sure you set the team. So, and it works better if it's middleware, yes. And here we have our middleware example. Every time the request comes, not all of your requests should be handled by this, only that those which assume you assigning any role or permissions should be assigned to this permission, to this middleware. And what it does, it basically says if you have a user, then set permissions team ID. So this method itself is a little bit tricky and not really clear what it does, but it basically says, hey, spatie, we are working in this team. That's what this method says to the spatie. And here we get the session team ID. But in Jetstream, we don't get it like this. In Jetstream's case, our current team ID is always in our column. So here how it should be in case of a Jetstream. Sorry. So it's basically the set permissions team ID. It's the way of, again, saying the spatie, hey, now we are working within this team. And then we get the user's current team. After the request running through this middleware, you can, like normally, assign any roles, assign any permissions. And I would like you to also make a note that once you gave team functionality to spatie, no user can be assigned a role without a team assigned to it alongside. So whenever you assign a role or permission, definitely this method must be run beforehand to tell the spatie in what team this request is being run. So what team is responsible for this request is set by this method. Without this, assigning a role right away gives an error. You need to put it in the middleware and run that request through this middleware, or in your code. For example, I should have a debug controller here that I played around with this package. Or in this role, for example, this is not wrapped in that middleware, but when I assign a role, I set permissions team ID. I call this global method and tell the spatie what team we are talking about, so that when it assigns a role, it assigns the correct team too. All right, we got that one out. And it's basically saying this middleware should be first before the substituting bindings, and that's okay. And here basically says when creating a role, you can pass a team ID as an optional parameter. One of them is with null team, it creates a global role. Global roles can be assigned to any team. So basically what it says is global roles, if you make a team ID null, it's going to be a global role, and then you can assign it to any user. No problem. Then it says if you want to, for example, allow your team members to create their own rules, in that case, you can even create a role with certain team ID. And another case, the third way of saying is that creating a role without team ID makes the role take the default global team ID. What is global team ID? Global team ID is a team ID that we set via this method. So if you remember, I said it says we can set global team ID from anywhere. When we can do it? After doing this. Okay, so that's the case. If you just create it like this, it's gonna make sure that you ran this and gonna get the team ID from there. All right, we figured that out. And others are just basically unique. Here it says after switching the team, make sure you are also setting the global team ID to the one you switched. And also after doing that, you need to also clean the cache. So there must be in your team or in your UI the button where you say, hey, change the team ID. That method that works with that click also after changing the current user's team ID. In Jetstream it's like current team ID, right? After Jetstream changes it, you need to also make sure that this runs with current user ID and you also clean the cache. After that, you can work normally with that user's roles or current user roles, doesn't matter. Generally, you can work normally with that. And here we go defining the super admin. And it says on your team model, in Jetstream's case, it's a team.php. Here, you should have a boot. I'm exactly gonna do it, by the way. You need to copy this after the cast, put it here. All right, and what it basically says is that when you create new team, so you are a user with team 1, right? You already have that team 1. Then you are creating team 2 or someone else creating team 2, right? Let's say that user has a team 1, someone else created team 2. This AI helps. Very annoying though. You are creating team 2, so our team 2 before created, after created, it's our team 2, okay, that we are creating. But we have also team 1 that we are on and we need to get it. And here, spatie calls it session ID, which is very frustrating. We are say pre-team, pre-creation team, which is team ID in our case. We save that to the variable because we're gonna change this for a while. After that, we say set permissions team ID, basically saying, hey, spatie, your global team is now team 2, what I just created. You do like that, and after that, you call super admin. So here should be where email is admin@admin.com. It's my super admin's email first, and assign role. So basically, if you guys remember, I said if you don't set global team ID or you don't run this one, you can set any role to any user. And I also said every single user, once you open this team functionality in spatie, every single user should have a team ID. But how do we handle the super admin, which should have ability to work in any roles, through any roles and in any teams? In that case, in every creation of the team, we should go ahead and grab that team. We call our admin and assign super admin role in that team. So we say he is super admin in every single team. So when the Laravel or spatie checks the permissions, he finds out no matter what global team we are setting, he is super admin in every single of them. And we are doing it by putting it in the boot method, which runs every time when model is created. And then when we are setting this one, we are setting, okay, we create our new model. Then let's get back to our initial global set. So we say, we call again set permissions team ID, and we put it to the pre-creating team. Team. If your team creation assumes that after creating that team, you right away should be assigned that team. In that case, you can actually set permissions team ID to this team ID. Where's that? To this team ID. So basically we can just do like this. That's it. In that case, we will have our global team set to the newly created. And also in UI, you can already, the current, you can change, call this Jetstream switch team or some another method and switch the team directly there. But when you create the team, you are not right away switching to it. You just create it and it's just among your selectors or among your teams, but you are not changing your current team. Then this should be here for setting the global team ID to the pre-creating this model one. I hope that's clear enough. I know that's confusing, but if you dig a little deeper, you can understand pretty well. That's all. That's the end of the documentation too. After doing all of that, guys, don't forget to run about all other documentation, especially setting the super admin. Defining a super admin here, it's same as you would always do with or without team. It's basically putting the super admin on gate before, which says if gate before sets the true, it means you can do whatever you want without having a bunch of permissions on your super admin role. That's it. Thank you for your attention. Have a nice day.